Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Narrycast, episode 3. And I wanted to, before I introduce my guest, remind you guys to like and subscribe. When you subscribe, when you like, comment, whatever, it helps push the channel out to more people. And the more people we can reach, the more people we can just have fun with. St. Philip Neri, the patron saint of joy. So our goal is to spread a little bit of that joy to somebody. And if one person gets something from this, then we've done our job. So this person I have today is honestly, like, I walk with him. I probably see him twice. I was thinking about this. I'll probably see you twice a week on a bad week, because it'll be Sunday after Mass and Bible study, guaranteed each week. But then probably 3 or 4 times on like a really solid week. But this is Branson. Branson's a focused missionary, and we'll get into a little bit about your history and stuff. But first, how's it going?
It's good, man. It's been a good day. Just got out of an hour of adoration. I do a Tuesday at 2 adoration hour at the parish here, and which is always good. Although I think I found it to be harder than a 5 or a 6 a.m. because I'm just so tired.
Yeah.
Post lunch and kind of after the rush of the day, and thankfully I was awake the whole time today, but that's not always the case. So.
Yeah. When you said you were almost ready, I literally was like, I'm going to go top this off real fast. Because it's at 2 p.m. is when it hits of like the afternoon wall you have to get through. So
yeah, man, things are well. The boys are doing good.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't know, Josh is the godfather of one of my children.
Yeah.
My 10-month-old Fulton.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little story about my week with the boys.
Yeah. You keep telling it. I'm going to grab something. You keep telling it.
Oh, great. So the other day I was home watching my kids. My wife was out, and I was in another room for a few minutes. And, I stopped hearing things from my children for a minute or so, which for anybody with kids, that's often maybe not the best sign. And so I yelled from the other room, Leo's my 3-year-old. Leo, what's going on? What are you guys doing? Where's Fulton? And Leo yells back, Fulton's in the bathroom. I'm like, what's he doing? Oh, he's playing with the water. I'm like, oh, go get him out of there. And I rush in, and Leo had gone into the bathroom with Fulton, and there's water on the floor. And but Leo, like the good big brother he is, had pulled Fulton's little hands out of the toilet, and they were both on the floor. But since then, there's been 2 occasions where Leo has now taken it upon himself to keep Fulton out of the bathroom. And so
nice.
The other day, I'm in the living room, and I hear a commotion going on in the bathroom, and Leo's like, Fulton, no, you can't go in there. And I walk over, and Leo's pulling his 10-month-old brother out by the feet out of the bathroom. It was a proud dad moment, and
and you got to be strong to do that, too, because Fulton is not a little 10-month-old.
Fulton eats more than Leo right now.
I was going to say, he's like the size of my 1.5-year-old. And as soon as you mentioned that, and this is something I keep on my desk to like remind myself to pray for him, but I have this is a prayer card. And that looks backwards on my screen. It might be backwards on the thing. But these are the coolest prayer cards I've seen. And it's from Spirit Juice Studios. Yeah, but like they make them, and they're kind of like an old school baseball cards. It has his bio on the back. So I've got like, I've got Venerable Fulton Sheen, Mother Angelica over there, Kaplan over there, Maximilian Colby, which is awesome.
That's the first I'm seeing those. That's cool.
Yeah, they're super cool. I actually... when I was at my fundraising conference, they were there. They sponsored one of the lunches, and they did a little presentation, and they said, if you guys sign up for our email list, then we will send you a free thing of coffee. And actually, the coffee I ended up getting was Fulton Sheen as well, and they're all named after saints. And we'll send you a free thing of coffee. But then when I got the coffee, I was like, oh yeah, this is my coffee. This is awesome. I opened it up and had all of these. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 of them, and the Mother Angelica one is like big. It's real big.
That's cool.
And so they're super cool, but I'm actually I collect like these, like just this specifically, but just prayer cards in general. I actually have like a few of them back there as well, and so I'm always like collecting them. And so when our kids go to Growing in Grace, Sarah And it's just like, you guys can come pick something out of the box. I'm like always up there with the kids. I'm like, oh, prayer cards. It's like, I don't have this one. So it's all the
That's
kids and
awesome.
me. So,
I
well,
love it.
awesome. So I was talking with Lindsay, and actually our wives were together all morning. So
Oh,
I told
you
her
know
that
what?
you'd be jealous because your wife got one of my wife's iced lattes this morning. So, which hers is like
Always,
better than Summer Moon. It's the
always
best.
jealous of people that get lattes.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
fanatic. I'm a fanatic.
Yeah.
So
And it's always iced, right? You never do hot.
almost always iced. Yeah,
Almost
yeah.
always.
I'm just whether
Hmm.
it's freezing cold or warm day.
Hmm.
I think there's something about being able to drink it at the pace I want.
Yeah. I get that.
That's the immediate gratification.
Hmm.
Worldly side of me. I don't like being patient.
Yeah, because I just
Um,
made this, and if we get talking and it's like 10 minutes, I could take a drink of it and be like, and just spit it back in there
yeah,
because I'm like, that's cold and it's
yeah, yeah.
disgusting. Actually, not even cold; it's that lukewarm.
Lukewarm. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
No
it's
one
like,
likes the lukewarm
and it's like,
stage. No
yeah.
one
I
likes
mean,
that.
no, Jesus doesn't even. He's like,
No,
God will spit you out if you're
I'll
lukewarm.
spit you
So
out.
I was like, that's what I do to my coffee. Uh, yeah,
Imitating Christ, you are. Yes, very
yeah,
good.
exactly.
Very good.
So I can just spit it out on the floor, and Father Porter's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just
Yeah,
like, "I'm just imitating Christ, Father. Just ignore me, ignore me."
yeah. I
But
shamelessly had two iced lattes today. I made my own, and
nice.
then I went to Summer Moon.
Oh yeah,
I don't do that every day, but
yeah,
I did today, and it's still the Easter season, so
yeah. Just yeah,
that's my
it's a
that's
feast
my
day.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some. I think it was at this past That Man Is You with the chef, and he's reminding everyone that Catholics have more feast days than fast days. And
Yes.
so like, oh yeah, definitely.
Important to note. We
Oh
sure
yeah,
do. We're not all doom and gloom as the world sometimes thinks we are, right?
yeah. Oh
We
yeah.
sure know how to feast.
Oh yeah. We
So
actually got, and actually, I'm gonna be doing this kind of an announcement for the summertime, I guess. We're gonna be doing a whole series on this podcast with me and Lindsay at home, and we're gonna be
oh,
going
sweet.
through. I forget what it's called, but there's a book that is. I think it's called Living with the Saints. And you literally go through and it's just from January 1 to December 31st. And it's like this person's feast day is today. So if it's like
Right.
the martyrs in Mexico or whatever, and like here's ways you can like celebrate their feast day with doing tacos and doing margaritas and doing all this kind of
Oh,
stuff, which is
nice.
super
Yeah.
cool. And sometimes it's based around where they're from, and sometimes it's based around like them. Like I think Saint Andrew crucified on an
Yeah.
X
X.
cross,
Right.
and so they said for like snacks, you can take the pretzel sticks and put peanut butter and make them crosses, and so your kids will have fun playing with them. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Super
So you can
kid
like kind of
friendly.
introduce it into yeah, which is super cool.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's such a cool to find new ways to live liturgically and just
yeah,
like really partake in what the church gives us. And
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
that's beauful.
Yeah.
Share that book if you can. I'd love
Oh
to
yeah,
read it.
yeah. I'll have to
Yeah.
share it in the description for all 12 people that are watching. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So I wanted to get into kind of your history with Focus, because
Yeah.
how long has it been since? It's been like a handful of years now, but like
Yeah.
the Focus in the parishes is newer, right?
It is. Yeah, it is. I think Focus in the Parish has been around maybe 9 full years now,
Mm-hmm.
or 8 or 9 full years. I haven't been a part of it for more than two.
Mm-hmm.
But the parish I serve at in Tulsa is the first parish that Focus came to, and so the number of missionaries have served here
Mm-hmm.
um, before me and
Yeah.
before Tara, but yeah, we started here and have since expanded to maybe around 15. I should probably know the number a little bit better, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, there's at least a dozen or so parishes in the country that have full-time Focus
Mm-hmm.
missionaries, and then there's several dozen more that are being served by Focus in some manner.
Mm-hmm.
We have some missionaries that are kind of in a full-time way accompanying priests that haven't yet brought missionaries into their parish,
Okay.
but that desire to live kind of the method of mission that Focus has popularized,
Mm-hmm.
what we call the Little Way.
Mm-hmm.
There's many priests in the country that desire to do that in their parishes.
Yeah.
They've seen the fruit that's come from Focus on campuses,
Mm-hmm.
um, and even some of the fruit that's happened in parishes, and they want to live this in their priesthood. It's really beautiful
Yeah.
to have priests that are that on fire to be on mission with their parishioners,
Mm-hmm.
to really enter the trenches with them. And so we have a number of missionaries that accompany priests,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a number of others that are served through uh, alumni that we've mobilized, off
Mm-hmm.
of campus and off of out of parishes. So
Yeah.
so focus is starting to move.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, not taking the foot off the pedal on campuses. We're
Yeah.
continuing to expand, and the
Yeah.
Lord's working there, but moving into some parish and diocesan settings,
Yeah.
which is
And
cool.
I'm sure there's such a bigger number as well that like Focus can give you, here's the official how many Focus missionaries are in parishes. But
Yep.
if you like didn't become a Focus missionary in a parish, but you got a full-time job and then you were just plugged into your parish, you're kind of like your natural instinct would be to kind of act as like a Focus missionary, like part-time. You probably would still want to start a Bible study with the people you met. You'd probably still want to
Sure.
invite other people to grow. To kind of be, I feel like the natural. And I know there's also the other side of
Yeah.
things too, where if you've been in the campus ministry for a super long time, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you're super burnt out and you're just like, man, I don't want to lead anything. I'll plug in, but I'm not going to plan or lead
Yeah, I
anything.
mean, you're hitting the whole spectrum of kind of the experience of a missionary,
Yeah.
a focused missionary, or just an involved student,
Hmm.
alumni.
Yeah.
There are thankfully, many former full time missionaries that are still missionaries, right?
Yeah.
We're all invited to mission as baptized Christians.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of missionaries, that I know of that are doing amazing things in their parishes,
Hmm.
and working, a full time secular job.
Yeah.
Um, but I also unfortunately I know some missionaries that aren't,
Hmm.
and that are taking at least a period of time to, I guess, to be renewed and
Hmm.
to discover how the Lord wants to work, um, in their life apart from full time mission work.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
the whole spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And for people that don't know it much, I always compared it to, and we talked about this multiple times, I think, but comparing it to like an athlete, if
Yeah.
they work their butts off, and especially nowadays, which actually there's
Sure.
a funny quote for a different part of the conversation where they say that traveling sports is ruining the family. I think that was Jordan Peterson that said that. But they have these traveling sports; they're doing it all the time, and then some of them get burnt out and don't even go to college. But the ones that do make it, they go to college, and then college is
Right.
going to be working your butt off. But then you got to figure out a way to do school with it. But you're working your
Sure.
butt off, and if you even are lucky enough to make it pro, you make it pro and you play for a handful of years. I'm thinking like I think baseball, the average length of a career is like 8 years.
Okay.
NFL is way even shorter; it's like 3 years. The NBA
Right.
is like
Right.
4 years. But
Yeah.
but then after that, a lot of these athletes, you'll see them afterwards. Actually, Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley are really good examples of they actually just completely stop working out. They stop being active because they are so burnt out that they're like, I don't even want to see a gym. I don't want to see a dumbbell. I don't want to see a basketball, football, baseball. So they stop being active completely. Then they get out of shape. And then when you
Yeah.
get out of shape, you don't want to. It's so hard to jump back into it. And I feel like it's the same with your spiritual life too. It's like you get out of your routine, you get out of your daily holy hour or doing your rosaries on Fridays with your family or whatever it is, maybe even getting out of going to mass on Sundays, all of a sudden it's like it's a lot harder to get back into it than you think. And you kind of you get yourself motivated again. And Charles Barkley is one
Yeah.
that I know got really overweight and became a thing on the internet. People are like, this guy is like one of the best to ever play the game. And then
Yeah.
recently he's actually lost a ton of weight. He's like getting back into it. So he's kind of renewed his
Yeah.
passion
Yeah.
for it.
And I think that that's true. It certainly can be true in the spiritual life, in the life of evangelization too. Is um, we can overdo things,
Mm-hmm.
and we can put far too much of the impetus and the burden upon ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I have been through that as a missionary, like many times. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just at the beginning of my time as a missionary when I was inexperienced, and but it's been seasons where
Mm-hmm.
I put far too much of the burden upon my own shoulders, and I forget
Mm-hmm.
that like this is something that's meant to be carried with Christ.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of missionaries come off of campus, and campus is as beautiful as a mission it is. It can be taxing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and many of the missionaries that serve on campus are young in our faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
We many of us maybe gone through a radical conversion in college and conversion to Christ, but also a conversion to his mission, and we're on fire, right? As many people are coming off of
Mm-hmm.
a an experience, an encounter with the Lord in a deep way. And um, but then we get to campus, and the need uh, is tremendous, right?
Mm-hmm.
The college campus, many college campuses are kind of a black hole, right?
Yeah.
There's so much there's so much there that we can do. There's so many people that we can invest in,
Mm-hmm.
and we might not actually be called to invest in the way that we tend to do.
Mm-hmm.
A really good spiritual mentor once put it like the need is not the
Mm-hmm.
call is the call. And I think his
Mm-hmm.
point is like we we stretch our, generally speaking, many many human beings in all kinds of professions, we stretch ourselves thin,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it ends up sometimes being counterproductive because we do burn
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah.
We aren't able to give our full selves
Mm-hmm.
to the people and the duties that are actually being asked of us.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I think that can happen on campus,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes after this experience of giving everything, right, giving all of our energies, sometimes more gung ho than we're actually
Mm-hmm.
being asked to do, can turn
Yeah.
into a period of I just need a break, you know,
Yeah.
not a break from the Lord, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe a break um, from the energetic way that I've been living, right?
Yeah.
The way that I've been running around,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have thanks be to God again. Just like I've seen missionaries that have left campus and that have had a period of time where they need to renew their own encounter with Christ,
Yeah.
and discover what it actually looks like to live mission in a parish, because it is very different than
Mm-hmm.
campus.
Yeah.
I would say it is different. There's
Mm-hmm.
principles that are certainly the same,
Yeah.
but then after a time, yeah, they come back and they're actually renewed,
Mm-hmm.
and they produce beautiful fruit through the grace of God.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And
that's a
that's
real
what I love
thing.
about so not being Catholic and then now working at a university parish. I love seeing that our focus team puts such an emphasis on there's three things that I see that they put an emphasis on is doing their holy hour together, which is awesome. It's like praying together, doing that together. They
Yeah,
do team formation each week, and I know
yeah,
you know all this for everyone listening. Team formation each week, which talking to them today, I was like, "What is that? What do you guys do?" And they're talking about some of the Lexio stuff they'll do, the articles or Bible studies that are being sent to them by Focus to help them kind of all be on the same page, but also to grow together. And then I love that Ignacio, probably everybody, but Ignacio is really big on them on, I believe it's Fridays on their day
yeah,
off. It's like, do not be in any contact with any students. That is your recharge day. Like, fill yourself back up so you can pour back into the students.
yes,
And I
yeah,
love it. And so we
yeah.
went to a softball game with Natasha, and she's like, "It's my day off. I'm not allowed to talk to students, so I thought I'd come hang out with you guys." I'm like, "That's awesome."
Wow,
And
that's
so,
beautiful.
yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
super
certainly a
cool.
biblical concept, like where
Mm-hmm.
the Lord asks a lot of His
Mm-hmm.
apostles at times,
Yeah.
and there's times where it says they have no leisure even to eat, but
Mm-hmm.
then He'll retreat with them, or He
Yeah.
Himself, right? He'll go up on the mountain and retreat, and
Yeah.
um, we don't just need that at particular seasons of life. We need it
Mm-hmm.
every week.
Yeah.
Sabbath is for rest, and
Mm-hmm.
those who are maybe engaging more in full time mission need even more
Mm-hmm.
rest. I think than what we
Yeah.
usually give ourselves. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I love that the focus is making it to the parish level because it
yeah,
kind of leads into what we were going to talk about a little bit today is kind of like that lay apostolate and kind of little bit of the focus of this show is kind of like talking with
yeah,
people who I believe are living it out well. And I strive to live it out well. And so I want to talk with other people that I personally see are living it out well to see like, what else are you doing? What are the things you're doing to live this out?
sure.
And something I was curious about is Lindsay texted me and said, you need to ask him about the things that him and Emily do. Actually, let me see what the text says. Is to ask, well, where'd it go? Yeah, how you guys grow as a family or as a couple, but as a family. It's just like how like one season you guys might be focusing on something, and then another season you might be focusing on something else. So like,
Yeah,
yeah, and so like if you wanted to
good
kind of talk
question.
about that a little bit of like how do you and Emily like focus on kind of that from the lay apostolate standpoint. I know first we need to focus like on our family.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
starts there and then it works its way out. So like starting there with your family, like what are some
Yeah.
stuff you and Emily do to make sure you guys are growing together
Man,
and the
that's
kids?
such a good question. And there's times where we have to kind of reassess and come
Mm-hmm.
back together and really pray together.
Mm-hmm.
Lord, are we where we are supposed to be at as a couple first, as a married couple?
Mm-hmm.
Are we pouring into one another? Are we pouring into our kids? And is that kind of um, the fountain that gives forth, what we are giving to the rest of the people we're walking with? And
Mm-hmm.
certainly we can always grow.
Mm-hmm.
But a few things that we do, I mean, beyond just praying as a family, um, at the general times before our kids go to bed and at meals and whatnot, Emma and I try to sit down and pray with the Sunday gospel at least once a
Mm-hmm.
week. And this is generally coupled with actually having kind of we call it a family tactical meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some amazing couples that we've met through Focus, through our work that we've done, that we've been blessed to do in ministry. And one of these couples really is very passionate about a family tactical meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They were formed through Focus as well, and have
Mm-hmm.
since left the apostolate and started their own that actually is focused on forming married couples.
Mm-hmm.
But one of their inspirations was that we actually, as you mentioned, the Focus teams have a time every week of formation, and they have a time of tactical,
Mm-hmm.
where they can step back for a minute and they can reassess the why behind what they're doing and how they're
Mm-hmm.
doing it, and can work together as a team to collaborate and work towards those goals. And
Mm-hmm.
so his point is like, if I'm doing this with my team every week, how much more I should be doing this with my wife
Mm-hmm.
every week
Yeah.
and protecting the heck out of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as we've experienced, like, we still need to grow in conviction about it, because sometimes when weeks get busy, that's one of the first things that
Mm-hmm.
goes
Yeah.
is our prayer and our time of tactical,
Mm-hmm.
where we're looking at not only what's coming up this week, what's coming up next week, our
Mm-hmm.
schedules aligning, that's part of it. But we actually try to have kind of a goal that we're working towards every 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 months. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of depends on what it is,
Yeah.
um,
And probably how you're progressing in it too.
and how we're progressing. And
Yeah.
but we'll come up with a goal, and the goal could be something as practical as, we have this particular house project that we want to kind of put at the forefront of our efforts right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so what kind of goals are we going to make every week to like move towards that together?
Mm-hmm.
It can be stuff like that, or it can be stuff more like, right now it's kind of vague, but we want to get better at the art of living. Like, we want to like
Mm-hmm.
create more effectively. We want to
Mm-hmm.
read things like poetry and things that elevate our minds and our
Mm-hmm.
hearts. And
Yeah.
I want to learn how to fix some things and
Yeah.
do some hospital. So there's
Yeah.
just like, it's a conglomeration of things, but every week we're coming together and we're looking back at how we performed. Did we meet
Mm-hmm.
our goals? Okay, great. If not, that carries over, so on and so forth. But then in addition to that, we're also like, no matter what we're aiming for as a short-term goal,
Mm-hmm.
we have particular things in there that we try to keep each other accountable for every single week.
Yeah.
Are we making our time of committed prayer every week
Mm-hmm.
individually? Are we
Yeah.
our time of the sacraments? Are we on mission together?
Yeah.
That's one big thing that my wife and I, being full-time missionaries, we, as much as we can, we want it to be a family effort. We want it to be
Mm-hmm.
an effort as a couple. Like, we certainly have various things that we do kind of on our own, and people
Mm-hmm.
that we walk with, more separately. But
Yeah.
We want to do things together, right?
Yeah.
We want our marriage to be kind of that lamp on a lampstand, that light on a hill that hopefully other people can see and in some way be inspired
Yeah.
to live their marriage more
Yeah.
effectively. And so that's a couple things that we
Mm-hmm.
do, on a week to week basis. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, some weeks we
Mm-hmm.
let it go,
Yeah.
and we want to commit more of ourselves to that.
Yeah.
So that's something that comes to mind
Yeah.
off the bat, at least.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like what you said about like focusing on the weekly stuff too, of like making sure like you guys are kind of keeping each other accountable with your prayer life and your like intentions on when you're going to mass and stuff like that. Like making sure that your personal faith life
Yeah,
is good too. And that actually like
yeah,
this is what I
yeah,
always like to drop. Like Saint Philip Neri has so many great quotes, and I always like to write some down. That, like I said, like that may come up, and he
yeah.
has one in here which kind of like leads into like evangelizing other people too,
Sure.
and definitely lines up straight with focus. But it says, "First, let a little love find entrance into their hearts, and the rest will follow." And I feel like
Mm,
that's like so big in our marriages is to
man.
like let that intentionality and that love and that uh, like that love, especially for their faith life. Like I'm so blessed to work for a church, and I can start a day with a holy hour, at least half hour, and I can go to daily mass 2 or 3 times a week without even leaving the building and don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But I need to make
Yeah,
sure as well that Lindsay has that opportunity too. And just to first like let like love and like a little love and find entrance into their hearts and
yeah.
the rest will follow. If I can just help her get to that point where she can start to fill herself up too, it'll just make a world's difference.
100%. It's like as a married couple, like you are really joined together. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that you are thriving in Christ, Lindsay will be thriving in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that you're not, she won't be. And vice versa. Like to the extent that we make space to let our wives
Mm-hmm.
commune with Jesus and commune with others,
Mm-hmm.
um, we'll reap the benefits, from
Mm-hmm.
that too. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's something so important in the context of married life and being married, especially on
Mm-hmm.
mission, is like
Yeah.
we, yeah, and I know we talk about this all the time, Josh, but like
Mm-hmm.
we have such a duty to help our wives
Mm-hmm.
thrive by, yeah, visiting with the Lord and in being in a group or a setting where they can, um, you know, befriend other women
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So yeah, I think that that's such a duty. It's
Mm-hmm.
incumbent upon us as
Yeah.
disciples. So
Yeah, and it's so great that like yeah, we have our like Bible study group and discipleship group
yeah,
and they have theirs.
yeah,
So it's so cool because we show the importance of like both of us being involved in that and giving them time, giving us time and allowing like as we evangelize like giving that like example to people to be
right,
like I know this seems like it's going to be time away from your family and time away from
right,
your wife but
right,
it's
right.
going to benefit her, but on
Yeah,
the flip side you should also be giving her that time and like so it's cool to like be able to kind of work off of each other. And I know I've ran into
yeah,
girls here that are graduating, they're seniors and wanting to get them in contact with Tara or Emily and Lindsay and them so they
right.
can get plugged right in after
Totally.
they leave the university setting.
Yeah, man. That I mean, I don't know. I could speak more about this, but that's like that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons that one of the several reasons that kind of was converging as to why I decided to leave campus and to step into
Mm-hmm.
a parish was, um, people do they go from these like really thriving Newman centers,
Mm-hmm.
um, not I don't want to say where things are easy, but where they have
Mm-hmm.
community, where they have access to, uh, uh, the Blessed Sacrament, where they have
Mm-hmm.
access to formative content, or where they have friendships, and and they sometimes step into parishes that are, um, either not thriving or
Mm-hmm.
the approach is so much more programmatic than
Mm-hmm.
personal.
Yeah.
Um, some parishes and I'm not saying this at all about my own parish because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want anyone to hear that, but
Yeah.
I had an experience of a lot of students that I'd walked with on campus,
Mm-hmm.
stepping off of the campus and into parishes, and um, yeah, and some of them like having a
Mm-hmm.
really difficult time, not just plugging in,
Mm-hmm.
but remaining faithful to Sunday
Mm-hmm.
Mass. Some of these
Yeah.
people led
Yeah.
Bible studies, and the reality is like the typical current approach in many of our parishes across the country is, um, we need to feed a lot of people, and so we need to throw a big program at things. And
Yeah.
instead of trusting in this kind of little humble way of like, we need to help people learn how to be friends. We
Yeah.
need to learn to help
Yeah.
people how to know what it means to accompany another person and journey with them as they and us,
Yeah.
walk shoulder to shoulder,
Hmm.
along the way of missionary discipleship. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not doing that across the country, but hopefully
Mm.
it's something at one parish that
Yeah.
that can be replicated and
Yeah.
transmitted to others. So
Yeah. And that's why I'm always encouraging people that I talk to, if they know someone who works at a university parish, whether it's a priest or someone like me in development or something like that, is to encourage them, like you're the middleman, whether it's focus missionary,
yeah,
priest, anybody, you're the middleman. So you should be trying to connect with the high schoolers before they leave for college. But then
so
you should
wise,
also be
man.
connecting with the young adults so that you can be
Yeah,
that seamless gap. I mean, if
yeah,
70% fall away from the faith when they go to college, like we're doing something wrong, and there needs to be some kind
yeah,
of change. And I think that change is actually really simple, is to get those high school students on campus before they even get to college. That way,
yeah,
when if they're on here in Tulsa and they're coming to the University of Tulsa and they're meeting Father Porter and the Focus Missionaries and Gerald, and then they decide they're going to the University of Arkansas, they're going to have connections. The Focus Missionaries will
yeah,
be able to say, hey, I know the team lead down there. I'm going to introduce you and get you plugged in. So they're plugged in right away. Or even if they don't have the connection, hopefully their first thought is, I'm going to go check out the Newman Center. Because when I was
yeah,
a senior in high school, I used to go over there on Wednesday nights to the Newman Center, and it was awesome.
yeah,
And then the same thing on the back end too, is like getting them introduced to, like right now it would be like the Tara Lauderdales and the Josiahs of the Tulsa community, Father Vince Fernandez, Father Josh Vitruba, Holy Family, people like that
yeah,
we can plug them into while they're in college, while they're seniors, get a feel for those parishes and like, where do you feel like you feel at home and who are you connecting with? And that way, right when they get out of college, it's like, I'm going to find that Bible study Branson mentioned. I'm going to go to that men's group thing that Father Josh Vitruba talked about. And that way there's this,
yeah,
not a roller coaster of high school dip, kind of grow in
yeah,
college and then dip and then start to grow again on the backside when you're like a young adult. Because people in
yeah,
college, they think they're busy, but they're not busy.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
not that busy.
The fewer transitions we could help,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to make, the better, right? They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
transitioning inevitably to, from school to a job, or from
Yeah.
potentially one moving from one place to another, or roommates to not
Mm-hmm.
roommates, or
Yeah.
not married to married, maybe,
Yeah.
just like all these things that are inevitable. If we
Mm-hmm.
can help lighten and soften that transition for them from one
Yeah.
faith community to another,
Mm-hmm.
that's gosh, that'd be huge.
Yeah.
That'd be huge. So
Yeah.
keep
Absolutely.
that, keep that.
Something to take it back to the focus stuff. I was going
Oh
to see,
yes.
like, so what was like some of the biggest differences you saw in the evangelization side from going from a campus to a parish, or similarities, the
Yeah.
similarities and the
Yeah.
differences?
Gosh. That's so good, man, because there's days where I'm like, it's mostly the same. And then there's days
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like, it's so different.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll start with like maybe the similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been actually writing a talk on kind of like what is mission, and how do we live it, for a
Mm-hmm.
retreat coming up, and so it's been in my mind a lot. But I think the principles of mission, the principles of apostolic activity,
Mm-hmm.
um, aren't different,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we look at the scriptures, and Focus will call this the little way of evangelization,
Mm-hmm.
and essentially what that entails is that if we look at the scriptures, we see that Jesus evangelized in various ways, right? We
Mm-hmm.
know that there's times where he preached to the masses,
Mm-hmm.
where he would give sermons to thousands of people, um, and that's certainly a way to evangelize. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is to preach, and
Yeah.
to reach many people, maybe through a podcast, maybe through being a Catholic speaker, being a priest.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we don't discount the fact that there is kind of this big way of evangelization that
Mm-hmm.
certain people might be called to.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, However, how did Christ primarily spend his time? It was
Mm-hmm.
deeply investing in 12 men,
Yeah.
uh, even more deeply in revealing more of himself to three men, Peter,
Mm-hmm.
James, and John. And And uh, just to imagine, between all of these different stories in the scriptures, he's like camping out with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's walking miles and miles from town to town, um, and he's just living life with these guys in such
Mm-hmm.
a ordinary. You could think of it as it's ordinary, but
Mm-hmm.
Jesus makes the ordinary extraordinary,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that for most of us, right, most of us who don't have degrees in theology or
Mm-hmm.
degrees in catechesis or evangelization,
Yeah.
for most of us that work a normal job,
Mm-hmm.
for most of us that have a family,
Mm-hmm.
for 95, 99 maybe percent of the world, I think that's the model that
Mm-hmm.
Christ is communicating to us through the scriptures and
Mm-hmm.
through his very life is and as we know, like he preached to the masses, but he left his church in the hands of the 12 apostles, right?
Yeah.
um, and I think that method, the principles that comprise that method are the same, whether we're
Mm-hmm.
on campus, whether we're in a parish, whether we're a missionary to a foreign country trying to get the faith going. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we kind of define this in focus as win, build, send. Doing this with a few, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is from the church, and I say we define this in focus as
Mm-hmm.
win, build, send, but this really comes from the heart of the church.
Yeah.
We can use different words, but um, this kind of process, if you want to call it that or think of it that way, is this you know we first encounter people through a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's what God did, right? He
Mm-hmm.
established us in his friendship from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And before he gives us any rules, before he gave Adam and Eve the command to be fruitful and multiply,
Mm-hmm.
right? It says he created them in his image and likeness, and he blessed them. And
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think that needs to be our first approach in evangelization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's
Yeah.
certainly what we did on college campuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we made invitations to a Bible study, or we presented, the charisma, the gospel message to them, and
Mm-hmm.
invited them to give their lives and their hearts to Jesus. Like
Yeah.
we encountered them through friendship, and we helped them see, hopefully through our imperfect friendship, the perfect friendship of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so there's this kind of phase, even though the phase of win never stops.
Yeah.
It's like this phase where we like help people get to the point of encountering the person of Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully surrendering their life to him.
Mm-hmm.
Not just part of their life, but their whole life.
Yeah.
And we go our whole lives like incrementally giving ourselves more and more and more to Christ. But I do think that there can be this moment of commitment where
Mm-hmm.
we surrender ourselves to him,
Mm-hmm.
and then when kind of transitions into this phase of build where we are teaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're transmitting a way of life, but we're also
Yeah.
transmitting the teachings of Christ in the church. We're helping people engage, especially in a life of prayer,
Mm-hmm.
devotion to the sacraments, uh, integrating them into a community of people, like-minded individuals who are striving after the Lord, and
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and teaching them, right? So there's this
Mm-hmm.
kind of build phase, we call it, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, essentially that's just it's helping them take on the life of a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
of a
Yeah.
Christian disciple, basic faithfulness, and then we begin to kind of continue, right, to
Mm-hmm.
move people more and more towards not just wanting to be faithful, but wanting to be fruitful,
Yeah.
um, of 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 really making their own this great commission of Christ to go make
Mm-hmm.
disciples,
Yeah.
and and we kind of invite them again, right, this conversion, not just to Jesus, but to what Jesus loved, which is souls,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to have a heart for others, and to
Mm-hmm.
then begin this process again with others, right, to
Yeah.
help win others towards Christ,
Mm-hmm.
or um, to a deeper union with Christ, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm kind of talking in circles in some sense, but like that's kind of the principles.
Yeah.
Um,
Like that wouldn't change whether you're at a college, a high school, a parish.
right.
Yeah, it wouldn't change.
So here's what I'll say is maybe what I've experienced to be different,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, one is on campus. At least I experienced this my relationship with most people. Although I would say was an authentic friendship.
Mm-hmm.
I could lean a little bit on my authority as a mentor, or my
Mm-hmm.
authority as a missionary
Mm-hmm.
with focus that was for the most part respected by students,
Yeah.
and that kind of gave me an opportunity to speak in their lives in a particular way
Mm-hmm.
more than just a peer,
Yeah.
and I think that that's a good thing. I think that
Mm-hmm.
there's goodness to that on campus. In the parish, a lot of people I walk with I'm actually younger than,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and uh, and focus doesn't have maybe that same level of uh, kind of authority,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, amongst a lot of people in parishes, maybe
Mm-hmm.
amongst the younger, but
Yeah.
a lot of people, the older end of the spectrum, still don't totally know what focus is, or maybe thinks
Yeah.
that's just for um, campus,
Yeah.
and so I like honestly, what's felt the most different,
Mm-hmm.
maybe two things, is that I have to like my life of intimacy with Jesus becomes all the more important. Like I
Mm-hmm.
lead more from my own encounter with Him
Mm-hmm.
than I maybe did on campus,
Mm-hmm.
because what I have to give is Him, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if I try to give myself, which I still try to do that so often, it's like
Mm-hmm.
people don't want that. Like they want Him. Like He's the
Yeah.
one that saves. He's the one that gives life, and um,
Mm-hmm.
so I have to like it's been a humbling experience of things move a little slower.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that's just the pace of like life in a parish.
Yeah.
It takes longer for culture to change, and like you said earlier, people are legitimately busy
Yeah.
with good things. Like sometimes not with good things, but they're busy
Mm-hmm.
with a job and with a
Yeah.
family, and
Yeah.
so I think the sacrifice of a certainly the sacrifice of mission, but
Mm-hmm.
even just the sacrifice of growing in a life of prayer, like we really have to say no to things.
Yeah.
A yes to Jesus is really a no to other things,
Mm-hmm.
and so the pace has felt a little slower,
Mm-hmm.
um, um, and
Which I can see being a good and bad thing. Like
yeah,
sometimes a good thing
yeah,
when, yeah.
certainly.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see it in both ways too. Like I think there's this beautiful permission to move
Mm-hmm.
at a pace that's appropriate. On
Yeah.
campus,
And
it's
I,
appropriate to move quickly.
and I can't remember if it's you and I talking about. I talk with so many focus missionaries now, but I think it was we were talking about how like on campus there is a little bit more of a speed you have to work at, especially if you meet someone for
Yeah,
the first time
yeah,
and they're a senior and like, oh dang, okay, I have if I met him right now, I'd have 1 month with him.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
if it's even if it's a junior, it's like, oh dang, okay, so if I
yeah,
did want to, if he's not Catholic and he was going to do OCI next week or next year, or maybe he is, and like we want to get him through Bible study, but then maybe set him up with discipleship to then be really like be a contributor to his parish. Like you're
yeah.
on like a time crunch now,
You are,
but
you
in a
are.
parish level, at least you're able to like, okay, I'm not. I mean, unless he up and
Hopefully, no
moves
one's going
somewhere,
anywhere. Right?
yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So and that can be a double edged sword. Like obviously, we don't want to rush things that ought not be rushed.
yeah,
At the same time, you don't want to like compromise and get too comfortable when you maybe should
mm,
be moving quicker. So it just
yeah,
it's this constant discernment, and maybe that was going to be my second piece is like
mm,
with parish still being a relatively new endeavor within
mm,
focus, it's less mapped out than on
mm,
campus.
yeah,
Um, uh, and I think that there's a goodness to kind of discovering a natural process
mm,
of things and moving according to that process for the most part.
yeah,
But on parish, like one, all parishes are so different. Many
mm,
campuses are very similar.
Yeah.
Parish is wildly different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so because of that, and because it's a new thing in Focus, we've we've we're trying to systematize some things
Mm-hmm.
without becoming, overly I don't know, overly stringent or rigid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, there's less of a mapped out like this is exactly what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And so we're having those kinds of conversations frequently.
Yeah. Which is great
And
because I just heard from someone, I won't mention her name because I don't know if I'm allowed to, but about like doing some more content creation for Focus to
Sure.
at
Yeah.
the parish level, which would be
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still relatively new.
Right. Exactly. We
Yeah.
could come up with some resources that would be a little bit more effective or conducive to parish life. So
Yeah.
those are a few things, man. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say on another level, like, and I say this certainly about you, but others too. Like, I feel like less of a mentor and more of a friend, and
Mm-hmm.
and like the people that I've met that I'm actually able to start walking with in a deeper way
Mm-hmm.
in the parish has been such a quick and fairly natural
Mm-hmm.
friendship that I am so filled by.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons we left campus as well at the time we did was like we need community of people that are
Mm-hmm.
raising kids with us and are trying to figure
Yeah.
out really
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
It's like and the Lord has tremendously blessed
Mm-hmm.
that hope of ours through you and Lindsay and through others
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and so I think mission in parish, and it's not like this with everyone, far from it, but I feel so mutually filled up and encouraged by you and by
Mm-hmm.
others that I'm just that wasn't necessarily my experience on campus. I was filled with by my
Mm-hmm.
teammates and filled in ways by my students, but in a whole new
Yeah. Yeah.
way in the parish. I'm yeah. I feel like I'm being run with right alongside
Yeah. Yeah.
by individuals like you.
Yeah,
So
and that does make
it's
sense
a
of like
gift.
needing those people. You can kind of tell when you meet a focus missionary who's kind of getting a little bit on the older side, like for a Catholic, that mid 20s. They're probably starting to think of like kids in the next
Yeah.
couple of years, and
Right.
it's
Right.
just like it's cool now that Focus has an avenue of like continue to be a focus missionary. And you're gonna, not saying you can't have kids and still serve on a campus, but like if you're gonna have
Yeah.
kids and stuff, and that is part of it, is you need that
Yeah.
that community of people that are walking in your steps, because I'm sure that's another
So
challenge,
important.
is
Yeah.
walking
So
with
important.
men that are 65, have retired, their kids are out of the house, and they're at a stage of life you're like, I haven't reached that stage of life. So yeah, there
Yeah.
are going to be some struggles maybe I can't relate with. I can give you some stuff that'll still help, but
So
at the
true.
same time, I could see, yeah, that, but like when it's college students, you're like, I know what you're going through. Like that's,
Right.
I've been there before. It's not easy, and you're able to encourage them and help them out through that. But yeah, I could
Right.
see that being a challenge of like, I have never been there before.
Yeah. Yeah. Like certainly we can give some direction on
Mm-hmm.
things of the Lord and things of mission.
Yeah.
Um, but we can also receive things obviously
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
from but there's so much else that like that I receive
Mm-hmm.
from y'all and from some of the older men in the parish that
Mm-hmm.
it's just so mutual. It's just like, and I think that that's what the body of Christ really ought to be, is like
Mm-hmm.
we're we're offering something and we're receiving something,
Yeah.
and it's this beautiful interworking of the Lord through many age groups and many experiences, and
Yeah.
so that's been such a gift, man.
Yeah.
I love serving in a parish. I love
Mm-hmm.
what my experience on campus was and how it prepared me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I encourage any campus missionaries, if you're watching this,
They all
before
are.
you totally decide to leave Focus,
Mm-hmm.
if you decide to leave campus before you decide to leave Focus, consider lifelong mission.
Yeah.
It's such a great gift,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
I'm a tag. Can I tag
there-
Focus in this episode? They'll
there's my
love it, right?
pitch.
And
Maybe.
then my pitch, also along with Focus, would be if you feel like you're one of those people in a parish that are like, I would love to walk, but maybe I don't have a Focus missionary, or I want to figure out ways I can maybe kind of act as a disciple to people in my parish, is to go to seek 20, whatever it be, 25
Yeah.
in Salt
Come
Lake
on.
City. I
Yes.
went for the first time this year and it was really awesome. They have the Making Missionary Disciples track, which actually they just announced a second location, right? Is that like a,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, is it public? I hope it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
there's.
posted on
I
social
think the
media.
main
Washington
event.
D.C.
Yeah,
If they
yeah,
haven't, breaking news. You heard it here first. No, just kidding. No,
yeah.
it was on social media.
The
Yeah,
East will be gathering in DC.
cool. I'm sure that'll be kind of like a virtual one though, right? Like the
Well,
main thing is still Salt Lake
I
City.
think it's going to be like a hybrid. I
Oh,
think they're
okay.
going to have some big
Some
speakers there,
speakers. That makes sense.
but a lot of the keynotes from Salt Lake will probably be
The the
like
main
recorded, or
broadcasted there.
either recorded or streamed. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that'd be
think
cool.
that's
Yeah,
true.
but that's my pitch is to
Come to
attend
see.
Seek 25 because it's great. You'll learn a lot and you'll get to see people that are just like you, people that have full time
Yeah,
jobs or stay at home moms or whatever, but they're serving inside their parish and still living
yeah,
that little way of evangelization.
yeah. Let me say one more thing that's been on my heart. Like
And then we're going to get into the draft
and
after
then the
this.
draft. Yes,
Yeah,
that's that is the.
but yeah, you
I'm looking
close it
forward.
out.
Just like I have been praying about mission, and I think maybe this is maybe just a current thing that I'm experiencing is this reluctance and this resistance to mission,
Mm-hmm.
and even if we know that it's like a demand, right, of the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
like all power in heaven and earth has been given to me. Go forth and make disciples of all nations. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not much more authority Jesus could have claimed there, right? Everything
Mm-hmm.
Jesus says is authoritative. Everything in Scripture is authoritative.
Mm-hmm.
But there's times where Jesus says things that's like, pay close attention.
Mm-hmm.
All power in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, because of this authority, you go make disciples of all nations. And
Mm-hmm.
and then we hear things from St. Paul, right? That's like, woe to me if I do not preach the gospel. And
Mm-hmm.
and we read things. I have a quote here from Pope Paul VI that says, it is unthinkable that someone should accept the word and give himself to the kingdom without becoming a person who bears witness to it and proclaims it in his turn. Right? It's unthinkable, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we can hear like these kinds of things sometimes as even as followers of Christ, and kind of we could hear them in a number of ways, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes the primary way we hear it, unfortunately, is like a slave, who's being told to do something by his unreasonable
Mm-hmm.
and burdensome master, right? Like, go do this thing because I said so.
Yeah.
Woe to me if I don't preach the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to be punished. And
Mm-hmm.
and I want myself, and I want us to see it in a new light, like especially those words like woe to me if I don't preach the gospel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I will experience a kind of woe or a lack of joy to the degree that I don't go share what I've been given.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like we need mission, and maybe that's what I want to kind of say is like, in a lot of ways, the Lord doesn't need us.
Mm-hmm.
First paragraph of the Catechism says that God is infinitely perfect and blessed in Himself. Like, He doesn't need us; He loves us and wants
Mm-hmm.
us, and invites us to participate in His mission of saving
Mm-hmm.
souls. But I think we need mission.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I mean by that is like our lives need to be wildly reordered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know about you, but I spend far too much time doing things I shouldn't do,
Mm-hmm.
or that
Yeah.
I should do very little of, and I spend far too little time doing things that I should commit my life to, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that bugs me.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a way in which mission reorders our life.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us put primarily prayer and divine intimacy first in our life,
Mm-hmm.
so that we actually have something to give.
Yeah.
And then it orders the time we spend. And especially if we have a family, like, and we're called to be on mission, like, okay, that's going to take time. That's going to take investment.
Yeah.
And certainly, first and foremost, it's to my family. But I think
Mm-hmm.
Christ invites us to go beyond.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa says we draw the line of the family too small. My
Mm-hmm.
wife just shared that with me the other day. And I think, like, yeah, I'm just passionate about this right now, but we don't believe that. I don't believe sometimes, and I don't think we believe that, like, going on mission is actually going to fill us
Mm-hmm.
with a joy that we could never discover any other way.
Yeah.
Um, right? It's like, yeah, if I spiritual goods are different than material goods. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I give you this across the
Mm-hmm.
camera,
Yeah.
I'm out of sparkling Waterloo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any more. Um, but if I share spiritual goods like faith, hope, and love, and if I share the joy of the gospel, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't lose the joy. I actually it
Yeah.
grows in me.
Yeah.
It grows and grows, and I think that like we need mission because we need to be full of joy, and I think that
Yeah.
that actually going on mission fills us with that joy
Mm-hmm.
um, that we can't experience otherwise. So that's kind of what
Yeah.
I want to leave on. Is just like,
Yeah.
man, I think that we are afraid of mission because we don't want to fail, we don't want to screw up, we don't think we know enough.
Yeah.
It's demanding, and all those
Mm-hmm.
things might be true. But I think the Lord calls us to mission,
Mm-hmm.
yes, to save souls,
Mm-hmm.
but also to fill us with joy.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'll cut it off there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's great. And my only thing to tag on that is I think so many people just look at mission as like, man, I don't know enough, and
Right.
they just picture it as like
Mm.
this heated debate with Protestants or atheists, and it's just like that's not even the case. And I think most of the time, this like when you do think of it in a little way, of like going on mission in a sense of like, I mean, I'm gonna find maybe it is an atheist or it's a Protestant
Sure.
friend or it's a
Yeah.
family member or
Yeah.
it is a Catholic that's not quite living the
Yeah.
life like they should. And
Yeah.
you're gonna start your mission by inviting them to coffee
Yeah.
and getting lunch with them and not even
Simple.
mentioning anything about that you think they're living their life wrong. You're not gonna mention that your
Yeah.
this is your goal or whatever. Like I want to change make you into disciples. Like no, you're just gonna start with that win stage and like
Smart, man.
start
Just
with
start
that
small.
build relationships and Gerald here, who we'll have on the podcast soon. He's I think next month. He's one of the best at that. It was
Yeah.
so cool hearing him today talk to a guy, and he goes, "I go to First Baptist in Broken Arrow." He's like, "That's awesome. That's great. Like you and your wife go together." He's like, "Yeah, we go. We have a 6-year-old, and we're really growing him up in the faith, and God's
Yeah.
a big part of our life." And he was just like, "That's awesome. That's great."
Affirm what is
And
good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it is, and it's
Encourage.
great. And I think too many times we're so quick to judge someone for what they're
Mm.
doing, or just like let it anger us or frustrate us, and make it to the point where we want to separate ourselves from it instead of like go to it. And we are wanting to save souls, but yeah, we just start with that genuine friendship. It's not you're not going to have to jump into a heated debate.
No.
Matt Frad does not debate people. He's like,
Yeah. And
why would I debate
I don't
someone
think it's the
when
most effective thing.
yeah,
I'm around people that want to
mm,
debate all the time.
yeah,
And to be honest, I don't think they're winning any souls
yeah,
because they're
mm-hmm,
more concerned about how good they sound. I
yeah,
don't want to speak for all of them.
mm-hmm,
There's some good debaters out there
yeah,
that are also like really beautiful evangelists
mm-hmm, yeah,
and beautiful friends.
yeah,
But if that component of friendship isn't there, if that trust isn't built,
mm-hmm,
our current day and age, they don't care what you have to say.
yeah, yeah,
If they're not going to watch you live out a charitable life,
mm-hmm,
and if they're not going to be on the other end of that charity, first and foremost,
yeah,
forget it, right?
yeah,
So I think you're right, man.
yeah.
We could talk forever,
Oh, I know, right? That's what I was looking at the
but
time,
I
and I
have to
was like,
kick your rear end with my
I
Saint
was,
squad.
oh gosh, okay. Now you're just talking crazy. But I was looking at the time and I was like, we could I understand now how Matt Frad records 3-hour episodes because they probably just talk
Yeah,
and they're just like having great conversations with
totally.
like Mother Natalia, who's been on there a lot lately,
Yeah,
or Trent Horn, and like yeah, it makes sense that they would just keep talking and talking.
yeah.
But
No, you're
before we
so
start
right.
the draft, one announcement for people. I am so grateful for the people that have said yes to this podcast, including my wife, Steve, Branson. The list of people coming up. We have
Oof.
Bishop Condola next week. I'm so excited. Ignacio, who's our team lead, also with Focus. We're going to be talking a little bit more about campus ministry. And then next month, we have Carlo Broussard will be on the podcast. And then a dual episode of the Catholic Man Show is coming up this summer. And so
What a lineup,
a lot
dude.
of great stuff. I don't know why they're saying yes to me, but they are, and I'm going to run with it. So
Bishop Condola batting cleanup, man.
I know, right? I was like, what in the
I'll
world?
take the third. I'll take the third hole.
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
Hey,
So.
at least I need to decide if I want to try to do the Saint draft with Bishop Condola, or if I just want to. Oh, let's leave that off. I think it'd be fun. I think we'll do it.
Oh, you should totally do it.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of fun today thinking about my draft, and
it's fun to
I
think
got some
about.
curveballs, man.
Yeah,
But I actually don't even know where I'm going to go with it. But
Yeah. So we'll since we've already gone an hour, we'll do it relatively quick, but I'll clip it as
sure.
well. So we'll do the full episode, but then I'll clip it as well, so it'll be its own separate little mini episode too. But yeah, any saints, anyone that has anybody that their first name is Saint, and they can, but once they're picked, you got to cross
You
them off
can't
your
pick
list.
them.
So
Okay.
so yeah, so
So I know we'll have some overlap. But...
yeah, the guest always goes first. And
okay,
if
well,
you,
I'm going to win. I'm going to win then.
what I know, and I already know who your first person is, and I just
Well, hey, how can it not be the Blessed Virgin Mary?
how did Lindsay, Steve, and myself me twice not think that?
What are you doing?
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so
anyway, we'll see you guys next week. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, here's my argument.
Okay.
And I'm actually, if you want, Josh,
Mm-hmm.
I will say we can take. Well, actually, here's what I want to say first. If it's anyone in heaven,
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick Jesus.
Yeah, then I'll take Mary. And Mary bosses Jesus around. Just kidding.
Maybe we should take both of them off the table.
Okay, we can take them both off.
But I'd say Mary because obviously, like, no Mary, no Jesus.
They'll be the coaches.
Salvation.
They're the coaches.
They could be the coaches. So Mary's my coach. Okay. But as far as my first pick, I feel as if I need to pick St. John the Baptist.
Okay.
Christ himself said that there's no more righteous man on the face of the earth than John the Baptist.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like I probably also win with him, but maybe not. So John the Baptist will be my first pick.
Yeah. And I always get to see, I do it each week. So I always get to kind of make my list and like kind of move stuff around because it will like add someone that someone else did. So I'm going to take Steve's number one pick because it was such a good pick. And I'm going to take St. Paul.
Oh,
yeah. I think we got to get one of the writers of basically the entire Bible in there.
Well,
it's just his
that's
intellect.
Funny you say that because my next pick, it's hard to say which gospel writer.
Mm-hmm.
And because I want to add some variety to my team, I'm not going to pick all of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to do St. John. I'm going to do St. John.
Okay.
Like he was the most intimate with Jesus.
Yeah.
He was his best friend, even over Peter.
Yeah.
And he wrote the Gospel of John. He wrote the letters, right? So I think St. Paul, great evangelist. The gospel writers, I don't know, maybe even more.
That's true.
Anyway, so my second pick is St. John the Apostle.
Okay. So I'm always thinking like variety as well.
Yeah,
that's so good. I always go with if you're gonna evangelize and you're gonna change the world, because this is our starting five to save the world in today's age. So you have to have
important.
Yeah. Well, it's like if they all were living right now, which starting five would like save the world.
Fair enough.
And so you got to have the faith as the core of it all. So this one, she will always be on my top. My oldest daughter's middle name is after her with Rose, and so Saint Therese of Lisieux.
She was amongst my top 5. And that's amazing. Yeah,
I don't know if you saw our draft with Steve, and I was like, when I
missed
picked,
it. No.
I was like, John Paul II. And he goes, yeah, that was my very first pick, and he marked it off, and I was like, yes. So we kept picking each other's.
Fair enough. Saint Therese, yeah,
pick 3.
She's the greatest intercessor, probably. So
yeah,
how could you? That's great. Okay, so man, I think. This is a hard one, but for the sake of variety, I'm going to go St. Francis Xavier because
that was going to be mine.
It's actually likely, based on many accounts, that he might be the person who's baptized the most people in history.
Yeah.
Because
they don't know an official number, obviously, but they like guesstimating it would be like in the 300,000. I think I've heard that number before. I don't know if that's right or not, but
I think the numbers range, but it's in the potential 100,000. So I'll go St. Francis Xavier.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, when they don't have the official numbers, but they're looking at the areas he would have gone to, that's just insane.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am going to, I think, take a sleeper here. And this is someone that probably should have gone way, way before. And this will be like the leader of my team. And I've already mentioned him, but I'm going to go St. John Paul II.
John Paul II.
Yeah.
He probably would have been my next pick, man.
JP2, get that leader.
Oh.
2 more.
Dang it.
I thought about adding like a bench person, and the bench person, the
Ooh.
sixth man, have to be a venerable, like someone that's not quite a saint yet.
Oh.
I'm like, that'd be a cool add to it.
Hey, I'd be willing to be the
Okay, we
first
can
guest
do
to do
it.
that if
I
you
have
want.
I have mine in my head.
They have to be a blessed or a
A
venerable.
blessed or venerable, yeah,
Okay, so it can't be canonized saint yet. All right.
yeah.
Okay.
Pick four.
Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So I'm between. I kind of want to do what Steve did and pick
Mm-hmm.
Moses,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I'm going to refrain from that. I think I'm going to
Yeah.
pick Augustine.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I say that is because Augustine is so widely read by like
Mm-hmm.
not just Catholics,
Mm-hmm.
but many other Christians and many non Christians.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first to. They say that the Confessions of Saint Augustine was like the first autobiography ever written,
Mm-hmm.
and it's read very widely. And
Yeah.
so I think as an authentic Catholic,
Yeah.
he's he's read and he's listened to by
Mm-hmm.
many people that aren't Catholics. So
Yeah. He's a
I
very
think
well
that's my
liked.
pick, man. I think
Okay.
Saint Augustine of Hippo.
Okay. Well, now I feel like I'm leaning now towards my variety. I need to either go intellect or workhorse. The person that's like going to be like you.
Yeah,
You have Saint Francis Xavier. He's going to be the workhorse, and so I'm going to go intellect first and be my Saint Thomas Aquinas.
Aquinas. Oh,
So he's going to be my debater. He's going to be the one that wins over the upper people in the
yeah.
other Protestant faith. He would be the one that would like win over a Joel Osteen over to the
Yeah.
Catholic faith, and then Joel Osteen would bring his millions of people to
Oh
Catholicism.
man. Well, have you know Aquinas does a lot of quoting of Augustine, but anyway.
Yeah, but it's because it needs to be rewritten. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Fair enough. Okay. My last
Last pick before our bench, our
before my
sixth.
bench. Also, how do we judge this? This is
It's
subjective.
just in the comments section. It's just kind of like
Dang.
whose line is it anyway? Where it's like all the points are made up and the points don't matter or whatever.
Ah,
Yeah,
all right.
I'll take
Okay.
it to social media
So
for a
here's what I'm going
poll.
to say. I'm going to go with Francis of Assisi.
Okay,
Um,
I don't think he's made anybody's
the
top
man
five yet.
who brought about some of the most incredible renewal in his
Mm-hmm.
time, and since there's so many Franciscan orders now, and
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be my fifth, Francis
Okay.
of Assisi.
So many orders. I'm kind of going that route too of like kind of making the orders very good at developing and introducing people to religious life and the priesthood. And
Yeah,
so I can't not go with the patron saint of this podcast with Saint Philip Neri.
Saint Philip Neri making an appearance.
Oh yeah. And he was the key of the little way, or not key. I mean, Jesus was the key of that. But he took that to heart, where he literally went
Yeah,
one by one to the people. So
less is more, baby. I think
yeah,
Charmin Ultra is kind of our catchphrase, like less is more. Okay. So my final pick, thinking especially like the current state of our world and our culture
mm-hmm,
and who is the best at communicating
mm-hmm,
to a culture as such, probably Fulton Sheen.
yeah,
Besides like John Paul II, which you already
yeah,
picked him. But
yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Venerable Fulton Sheen.
All right. And I feel like not a lot of people know about St. Philip Neri. So with my last pick, a lot of people are like, I'd have to look up to see kind of what he did. I mean, the oratories
Right.
and all the great work he did, and what he turned down, like the family inheritance. So I think this next guy's also like that. Actually, this next guy, you already know who I'm gonna pick. This, as I explain
Do
this,
I?
you'll know as I explain this. This guy he had a super devout a devotion to Our Lady of the Poor, Our Lady of Bonneau, but also
Oh,
he
yes, yes,
really
yes,
liked
yes,
Saint
yes.
Philip Neri as well. This guy would also be a workhorse and work alongside Saint Philip Neri
Yes.
very well. But it's a venerable Father Aloysius Schwartz who completely brought the faith back to South Korea after the Korean War, and
Oof.
then continued to do the girls' towns and boys' towns that are still around today. And it's just, I don't even know why he's not a saint yet, but he's definitely going to be one day.
It's a matter of time. Matter
yeah.
of time. That's a great one. I love
Yeah.
that you put some people on there that are lesser known. And like, that's like, there's a part of me that's like, I really do think that this is the best lineup, but it seems almost, it doesn't seem very original, unoriginal, whatever you want to say, because it's like, I mean, like John the Baptist, John the Apostle, Francis Assisi, Saint Augustine, like.
That's what I've noticed is I'll have my starting five and I'm like, this is great. This is like, I don't know how you could beat it, but then when you do the draft and you see the other person starting five, you're like, oh, maybe.
Did you beat Steve?
Maybe I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know. A lot of this is I'll have to like actually take him to like Instagram or Facebook or something. But as the following grows and stuff,
well, he told me that he thinks he beat you. So.
No, okay, we're gonna take his episode down. So no, I'm just
like, who won? He's like, obviously me.
He started the whole thing. It's like, I'm gonna smash you, and I was like, you getting competitive real fast. Awesome. Well, man, this is gonna be by far the longest episode. It's awesome. I love it.
I hope you'll have me back.
Yeah, exactly. We definitely will. We actually eventually want to have you and Emily on at the same time with me and Lindsay on. And so maybe we'll bring you on in one of the new episodes this summer with the Living Out the Lives of the Saints book. And so like have you guys over. So thanks for coming again. Don't forget to subscribe, everybody, and like and comment. Remember, when you like and comment, it spreads the gospel. We're going to proclaim it here. When you like and comment, it shows up on someone's page. That is, in my opinion, a version of spreading the gospel, and it's free. You literally just hit subscribe. It's not that big a deal. So you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next week with Bishop Condola.